Hello and welcome to the Books Crypto Club catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 14th of November, 2021, and we're here to talk about all things blockchain, crypto, DeFi, NFTs, whatever people really want to talk about. So if you enjoy this session, do remember to click the subscribe button, click the bell so you get reminders, click on the like button, make comments. Even better, come along to a future session. These are open to everybody, novice and expert alike. So if you'd like to learn more about crypto or about how blockchains work, come along and ask the questions. Or if you're an expert and you trade or you do DeFi or yield farming or something, come along and share your knowledge and experience. Anyway, let's see who's going to come and join us today. Chris, hello.
Hi there, Gary. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you keeping these days?
Yeah, I'm great. Yes, now the summer's over, I'm back in tune with everything. But no, I haven't done much over the summer in terms of crypto. But when I looked through everything, I was quite pleased with the end result. So
it's one of these. Sometimes it's best not to look too closely. Just sit back and see what happens a few weeks or months later.
Yes, but there's a lot going on in the crypto world at the moment. So it's going to be exciting to see how Taproot and all that sort of stuff.
There are so, you're right, there are so many things going on that it's difficult to keep pace. So that's why I like people to come on and join in. So I see we've got Ernie come and join us as well today. Hey, Ernie. Ernie's a stalwart of the blockchain community.
Oh, brilliant.
And I think he was taking some time out from it and has realised that he can't escape, so he's back again. So
I think that happens to all of us, doesn't it? I mean, certainly those of us who are holding just to see what's going to happen. But in my opinion, it's just getting more and more confirmed that it's become acceptable now.
Yeah, and certainly you take a look at recent news. So things like El Salvador adopting Bitcoin, although that's kind of interesting where that is right now. You take a look at, they were looking at New York City of all places.
Yes,
talking about creating a community coin in some way. Miami, the mayor there talked about exploring it as an opportunity, so that's good. Hey, Ernie, you got your ears plugged in now? Ernie, you're on mute. Ernie, you're still on mute.
All right, Gary, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I was just saying to Chris, you were one of the kind of like the blockchain stalwarts, so certainly on the identity side of things, and then yes. I think you tried to escape and then realised you couldn't and had to come back into it again.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, Gary. I mean, I went to a meet. Oh, you're meeting at the Gherkin, and what a lovely night! What a great night! And I just the buzz came back, and I'm like, nothing's nothing's changed, but it's still the same arguments.
Yep.
And we need to get the evangelists out again.
I think you're right. It's interesting. I'm just preparing for another training course I'm delivering in a couple of weeks, and I'm just reviewing all my material just to make sure it's all up to date. And it is. And that is kind of good because it means at least what I wrote was sensible at the time. And it's bad because it means it hasn't changed and it hasn't moved on. So, yeah, you're right. There's a few things that need a little bit of kicking. So are you getting back involved in a particular project or something then, or is it just a general interest?
Let's put it general interest at the moment, Gary. I can't say a lot more than that.
Okay. Yeah. So Chris, who's on with us today as well, Chris got into the crypto side of things. Must be, 2 years ago or something, Chris, is it?
It's nearly 4 now, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, time flies when you're enjoying yourself. I'm 4 years in the crypto world. It's quite a long time.
Well, I had quite a long gap because when everything went down in 18, I think it was, wasn't it? I just sat on everything and waited. And then really it was when you invited me to become part of your group that I got back into dealing with it more seriously.
Oh, that's good. Well, my whole kind of like rationale is about encouraging people to come into this kind of thing. The thing I love about blockchain and crypto is that it is actually quite community minded, and we can actually help build everyone's knowledge. I remember when I first came into the space and it was all like new, and there were so many things that I didn't understand, and that's why I was keen to learn, but learn from others, and then when I'd learned, then help to teach others and that kind of thing. So I believe the community is a great thing on this. So And talking of community, we've got another community stalwart on today. It looks like Stephen Castle's joining us from wherever on the planet he's operating from at the moment. Hi, Stephen.
You didn't ask which planet. I mean. As many people know, I'm often on my own planet entirely.
I was actually doing some work reviewing a project recently, which was to do with creating a new cryptocurrency for Mars. So that these days,
another
get there
meme
first,
coin.
Gary. Get there first.
Yeah.
For Mars. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Well, there was this thing long running in the FT. I haven't seen it recently, where you can always see how inflation's going by looking at how many things a Mars bar will buy you.
Yep.
Yes.
And it's been remarkably constant for a number of years, actually. But anyway.
Yes, except the weight of the Mars bar keeps going down as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the sugar content goes up, or whatever. Becomes a nastier thing to eat. I'm actually in the south of France, just to answer your opening question.
Okay, so I presume you'd probably be in France or whatever. But it's always interesting speaking to people as to where they are, either because of lockdown or because of whatever they've chosen to do or whatever. So that's good. Is that Gaurav Singh joined us?
No, you pronounced it right. That is fine.
Cool. Okay. Well, welcome to everyone who's kind of new to these sessions, really. These are totally open. There's no fixed agenda generally. I host these every Sunday, but I just open these so people can have a conversation about crypto, blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, anything that's going on, really. The idea being that for novices, if they've got any what you'd normally consider dumb questions, and we've all been there. We know what I mean by that. There really is no such thing as dumb in the crypto world. That it gives people to ask some really simple things like, how do I create a wallet, or how do I connect to Binance, or whatever. But equally for people who've been in this space for somewhat longer, and for the majority of people here, I guess that applies. It allows you to share your knowledge and your experience in that. So I don't know if anyone's come along just to listen and find out what this is about, or if you've got any particular questions, then if you have, then just ask away.
Gary, are you okay then if we give out this address to other people? You don't mind?
Please do. I publish it on, this is originally called the Books Crypto Club. And the reason it's called the Books Crypto Club is not because of money, but because I originally set this up in Buckinghamshire, in a little town called Marlow in Buckinghamshire. And I helped create it simply to build a community locally there of people who are interested in crypto and that. And then when we went online with COVID, then I carried on as it being a Books Crypto Club type thing. And then realized that with Zoom, it doesn't matter where people are anymore. So you don't have to live within 5 miles of Marlow anymore. So I get people dialing in from the States, from Germany, and this kind of thing. So yeah, feel free to open this up. More the merrier, to be honest.
Well, the fact that you, with your excellent accent, call it the Books Crypto Club, I'm sure the people of Buckinghamshire don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I'm trying to work out which accent that's meant to be impersonating.
I don't know. It sounds just like saying it the books, as in books that you read, Books Crypto Club.
Yep.
Which is quite a nice combination of the old information and the new.
An interesting way of looking at it. And you're right, actually, book is the word that people always pick me up on because it's actually a slight Liverpool accent.
Oh, is this how? I was thinking more Derbyshire because they say, "Hey, up me duck, how are you going?"
I was going to say there's certainly me duck, definitely, yeah. So I don't know. Going back to the topic, really, does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to understand more, or anyone have any news, really?
Tech UK, is that still going?
Tech UK is, yeah.
Are they still pretty strong in the blockchain world?
So I was on the DLT working group. But I've recently left Tech UK simply because I used to use it a lot for the office space. Yeah. And I've been into London twice in the last 2 years. So I don't need to use the office space anymore. I do everything on Zoom, Meet, Google, or whatever. So I left Tech UK recently simply because I don't need to use the space anymore. But they do have the distributed ledger technology working group that I was on. That's still run by Roger Oates with Jean-Pierre from
Yeah.
AgriLedger. She was the deputy chair, and there are a few others. So they've still got the group going, as far as I know. Yeah, and we're joined by Ignis. It says, I believe. Hey, Ignis. Well, welcome to the group.
Hi, thanks for welcoming me. First time here. I'm actually a very long time crypto enthusiast. I've mined my first Bitcoin. I think it was back in 2011 or something. Yeah, just actually finished, or at least delivered, my first crypto project recently. So I hope I can talk a bit about that as well. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. Well, if you've been in the crypto space for 10 years, that definitely makes you a veteran in this space.
Absolutely.
And very much have you been doing mining in that as well. So is your crypto project live and public? Can you share details about it?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I actually have even like a short video that I can show everybody. So
we'll probably skip that for now, but I'd certainly welcome
can you,
if you
can you give us 3 sentences on it? What does it do, and for whom?
Okay, so it's an alternative inflation model that's calculated, and the data is acquired in a distributed manner. So we use blockchain technology to gather pricing data directly from consumers, and then we provide it in a transparent way to smart contracts.
So you're algorithmically matching it to what, consumer prices or something?
Yeah, it's an alternative to the consumer price index.
Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Funnily enough, we were talking before about Mars bars and about how it is sometimes you can work out the value of inflation or the effect of inflation by seeing how much a Mars bar is or what you can buy with a Mars bar.
Purchasing power of a Mars bar before you eat it, yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of alternative indexes like Big Mac index, but what we want to do is kind of gather the data that's relevant to consumers. And I think the current CPI does not really reflect that, because it does not reflect the housing prices or the energy costs, and we want to change that. So yeah, and we want to make it a bit more local and more granular. So if you're living in London, it's going to be one way. If you're living in Leeds or somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, then it's a totally different set of prices. Okay. And for smart contracts, what you want to have it much more granular, because the government releases data once a month. And if your business is reacting to things that happened a month ago, it's not very accurate. So what we want to do is to have like up to minute or up to accuracy.
So are you using AI to do that?
What's the question?
Are you using AI to gather your information?
Yeah, we use AI for something. So for example, categorization. So when product name comes in, we need to place it in a specific category to know how much weight is in the basket, and we use AI to do that. And there are many more different applications of AI we can use to do the same, but we haven't gone there yet.
Ignace, who do you see will be using this? Is it people that want to tie their contracts, and mind about smart contracts, to an index, like they would normally be quoting, this shall vary according to the retail price index or the CPI? You see, they might transfer to yours because it's actually a more sensitive, more representative index. Is that where you see the utility of it?
Exactly. So what I see is there's like a smart contract that, for example, lends you cryptocurrency. It can take into account the current situation in the market. So let's say there is like a huge spike in the prices. That means there's going to be a lot of uncertainty in the economy, and that means the interest rate is going to be higher. So that's where I think the first utility probably the user is going to be.
Just for people lending cryptocurrency, not generally in the economy.
You can lend anything you want. You can lend a stable coin, which is essentially tied to regular fiat currency. So it's it's up to the users to decide what they would use. It could be cryptocurrency, and maybe for cryptocurrencies it would be actually counter cyclical. So maybe for cryptocurrencies the inflation is actually beneficial, so the interest rates would go down. But you can use it for stable coins like Tether, or I think there's probably a few.
I'm just asking, beyond cryptocurrencies and stable coins, is anyone going to be interested in it in the real economy, as it were?
I think, I don't know, with fintech it's difficult to say, but I think for regular people it's going to be quite useful, and we will provide the data for free. So if somebody wants to know, what's happening in their area regarding prices, and they want to notify it if something changes, then I think it's going to be very useful for regular consumers.
How are you going to validate? I mean, you built a model of some sort, and you're building the thing according to the model. How are you going to validate that? I mean, it comes up, it spits out a number or an index or a range of numbers, which can then be grabbed by whoever wants to use that in a smart contract, or indeed just in a non-smart contract. You can make reference to it, I guess. How do you know that that actually is going to be valid for what it's purporting to be valid for? How are you going to validate? How have you validated it? Have you done any back simulations on it, going back the last 10 years with whatever data you might be able to? I'm just wondering how you validate the model, or how have you validated it, if you validated it?
Well, I think the first and the most important thing for us is to validate the data, and kind of the model is a bit secondary to that, because once you have the data you can build a wide variety of models, and our current model is very simplistic. So what it does is just takes the price that you had before and the current price for a specific item, and then it calculates the difference, and then it applies like a weight, and just takes essentially the whole basket and spits out the number. So it's very simplistic. If prices for apples went up 50%, and apples are in your basket 10% of your basket, so you'll have something like 5% of your basket has increased in price. So actually your basket has increased in price by 5%, and that's a very, very simple model. And we can build more advanced models, but I think the first step is for us to validate the data. And the way that's going to be done is, when the data comes in, actually people are going to generate an NFT with the data they supply, and that essentially ties in to a specific person's wallet. So that means it is identifiable that this person has provided this data, and it's tied to him, and it means whatever his reputation is, it's tied to that data point. And then others are going to aggregate the data and perform automatic and manual analysis on that, and again create another NFT, which is going to be more valuable. So and so on, essentially.
That sounds really interesting. Maybe we can come back to that later. I just want to say hi to a few more people who've joined us, just to make sure everyone's included and everything. I see, is it Ajan who's joined us? Hi, Ajan.
Hi there. So I just joined first time, so I'm just completely new to this. I'm just trying to listen.
No problem. Just listen. If you want to ask any questions or anything, just feel free. Thanks for joining us. And we've got Karen as well. Karen, hi there.
Hi, Gary. This is my first time joining this, weekly catch up. So, many thanks for organizing it. It looks really great platform. I think, I'm more of a building my knowledge base around it. I have invested a little bit into crypto, but it's always good to know a little bit more than, the everyday folk investing in crypto. That's why I'm here.
That's great. So I think, hi, it's my first time here. I've heard that for the sixth time this evening, so there's a lot of new faces. So don't worry. There are always new people coming along to this, and sometimes they come along each week. Sometimes they're never heard from again. So thank you for coming along. That's great. And we've got someone who's got a picture of a unicorn. So what's the story behind that? Or are they going to stay on mute?
It's me, Gary, Fernando.
Ah, Fernando. Okay. So I didn't recognize the unicorn. Is this the new logo for you, Dan?
Yeah, pretty much.
Hey, well, welcome, Gordon, and good evening to you.
Hi, Fernando.
Hi, Stephen.
Yeah, so we've got a few legends on today. That's great. There's a few people who've been in this space for a while. Just been joined by Patrick as well. Hi, Patrick. There's always this satellite delay, isn't there, when you say hi and people frantically try and go for the mute button or the unmute button. So hi, Patrick. No, it's not going to go. Never mind. Well, he, she, or they can say hello when they get connected properly or whatever. So, Ignis, thanks very much. That sounds really interesting. What you're talking about effectively providing a new inflation index or consumer price index or whatever. I can certainly see the potential of that linking into a stable coin, and people could use that as a form of hedging, I guess, as well. That'd be interesting. So thank you for sharing that. Just wanted to open this up now. Has anyone come along this evening with the intention of asking a particular question or learning something in particular? And the reason I asked that, I used to ask the same thing when I had physical meetings, is I always like to make sure people get a good value for their time. And if people think, oh, that looks interesting, I'll go to that because I'd really like to know about, then, ask away. If it's just that people have come along because of the curiosity, because I sent an email before and people thought, oh, we've got a few minutes free, that's fine as well. But does anyone have any particular questions?
If nobody has, I could, now that Fernando's on, because he did put something on a certain WhatsApp group about what is the fastest blockchain. What do we mean by the fastest blockchain? Does anyone have stats about what is the most performant in terms of transactions per second in a real world?
Yes.
What I call a real world application, nothing to do with cryptocurrency, okay? Just using blockchain for some real world application as part of your design. Yep. What is the most performant transactions per second? Let's use that as a stats, if that's the right one, that one can now get. And where do you get it from?
So, Stephen, I can quickly offer something on that. But you were right in defining what you meant by speed, but you didn't define what you meant by blockchain. So some of the newer type things that are coming out, and I think the one that Fernando shared, are not actually blockchains in the stricter sense of the word, but the DAGs. So tell
us what a DAG is, please, for those.
Yeah, it's a D-something acrylic grid. So
a cyclic graph.
That's it. Sorry, Fernando. In fact, Fernando can explain it better than me because he's more closely involved in this. Go for it, Fernando. Tell us what DAG is.
It's directed as a cyclic graph, yeah? It's more like a graph. I think you know, Stephen. You look at you're a technologist. You understand this, yeah? So it still is a chain, yeah, but it doesn't have blocks. Okay, so it's kind of a more effective structure for storing the data and processing transactions and so on. Yeah.
The way I offer to describe it for those who aren't familiar, and the technologists will probably shoot me for this, but I think it's accurate enough because it's a little bit simpler. If you think about how a blockchain works, a blockchain, you've got a block of a block with a load of records in it, and the records get brought together, and then they go through a mining process. And
no, there is no mining. There is no mining.
I haven't finished yet. Hang on. Carry on eating your food. I want to define what a blockchain is before I do a DAG. So you think about how a blockchain process is a series of computers connected together, solving a puzzle, whichever one wins the puzzle gets some crypto as reward, and then those records get written to a block, and the block's appended and so on. So you got that history. With a DAG, I think of it more as a multi-dimensional spreadsheet that is preset So you've got column A by column B by column C or whatever, multi-dimensional, and you refer to that cell for the content of what goes into it. So it's already hooked together in some way. So it's a totally different way of doing things. But what it means is because you've effectively pre-populated this in fact, it's beyond billions. It's kind of like number of atoms in the universe. You've pre-populated this matrix of A by B by C by D by E by whatever. Then it makes it very, very fast to reference that specific cell. You think about it, if you look at a blockchain, if it was written as an Excel spreadsheet, and you'd have to read through each row to get to all of the data. Whereas with a DAG, you can effectively say, go to row 2279, column C, and it takes you straight to that cell.
How does it stop you from hacking? Or is it not as secure as a blockchain?
It is. Sorry,
I was going to say it's every bit as secure. The one to take a look at in terms of speed, which comes back to Stephen's point, is I know Fernando shared one of a platform that's gone live. There's another one which is a UK company called Radix, so RADIX.
Yeah, I know Radix.
Yeah, and they've written loads of stuff around this kind of stuff, but they seem determined to not go live. I think that they keep striving for perfection instead of adequacy. Which is lovely, but means they're never quite going into the production thing. But they've done a lot of explainer type things around this. But as I understand it, the security is as good as any proof of work, proof of stake type makes
That's interesting.
But certainly, because it's a different approach, it makes it faster.
To be clear, it's really got nothing to do with blockchain. It's just a random access method for accessing data in a big block, which you can get at via an indexing method.
The challenge you have,
it's still a chain. It's still a chain. So think like it's a tree, you know. And what you have is those branches on the tree. They are all nodes. Yeah. So it's similar to that tree structure. I don't want to say a Merkle tree, but you know, it's similar to a tree structure. Yeah. That means that a lot more transactions can validate at the same time. Yeah. So the nodes are all connected to like the branches of a tree, you know. So one of those nodes can have actually more than one parent root. So what that means is that the users don't need to wait for a transaction to be completed to start the new one. Yeah. There's no blocks. There is still a chain. It's still, you could consider this still a DLT because it's distributed, you know. So it's just in a different way.
I'm picking up on Stephen's point. I've seen the evolution of the term blockchain move on from being pure play Bitcoin blockchain, you know, where you've got rows, you've got blocks, you've got miners, you've got proof of work, and a lot of the blockchain technologies have evolved on from that. Yeah. But they still call themselves, well, it's like R3 and Corda, for example, is the great one where they now say that they are blockchain inspired. So if you look,
you're absolutely right, Gary. Here's something for you guys all to look at. Okay, the actually guy who created blockchain, actually the principles of blockchain was not Satoshi Nakamoto on his Bitcoin paper. If you actually look at the Bitcoin paper, there's quite a few mentions at the end, yeah, of Professor Stornetta. Okay, Stornetta is the brains behind. Satoshi just collected all of Stornetta's ideas and put it and created something called a cryptocurrency with a blockchain. So yeah, the concepts are all very old. And if you're gonna look at immutablerecord.com, I urge you all guys to have a look at it. You'll understand what Stornetta says, you know, hey, this is me. I created all of this stuff that Satoshi is putting all in a white paper, you know, and it is true. So some of these are very old concepts. They just been improved over time, as you said, Gary.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of the time with innovation is simply taking the existing building blocks of something and putting them together in a different way. And I think we saw that with blockchain, as Fernando says, you know, ultimately blockchain is a combination of distributed systems. Well, we had distributed systems anyway. Decentralized capabilities, well, we had those anyway. Cryptography, well, we had that anyway. And databases, we had those anyway. It's just the unique way they were put together allowed us to develop it. So all that's happened now is people are now taking those points and recomposing them into something slightly different again.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the 60s and 70s, we had list processing, which was essentially a blockchain. It didn't have cryptography. You didn't have it then, or you did have it, but you couldn't implement it. It was so slow on the machines you had. And we didn't have the thing that distinguishes blockchain and Satoshi paper is the consensus mechanism for writing the record in the first place, which makes it this idea of a public blockchain rather than a private database. That's the distinction the key distinction in my mind is a methodology for committing the record to the database. That's it, really. The actual components otherwise are pretty old school.
So that's probably where I use the analogy. It's a little bit like people get confused about what's a blockchain and what's a distributed ledger. And I think it's the same with blockchain journey. When I'm presenting at events and I say to people, right, hold your hand up if you've got a Hoover, you know, and loads of hands go up, everyone's got a Hoover. I'll say, okay, is it actually a Hoover? Or is it a Dyson? And, you know, people go, yeah, it's a Dyson. Okay, so you're using the term Hoover and Dyson synonymously because they're both vacuums, except they're not. A Dyson isn't actually a vacuum cleaner. It actually uses a different thing. But we use vacuum, Dyson, and Hoover interchangeably. Ultimately, all that matters is it's a device that removes dust from our houses.
Well, they're all carpet cleaners, basically.
Yeah, exactly right. And so this is the same thing I got on there. So
they all DLTs, Gary. You know, some are blockchains, some are DAG, some are a mix of DAG and blockchains. You know.
Yeah.
LF0, the one I mentioned before, it's a combination of both, of a DAG and a blockchain, because they use substrate as well. You know, for smart contracts, etc. You know, so they utilize all the available technologies, you know, and Stephen is right. I mean, a lot of this technology, actually, most of the concepts we have, they were developed, you know, 40, 50, 60 years ago, like distributed AI. That's a 1942 or 1938, I think, concept, you know. Only now we have the technology to actually be able to implement some of these and be quite efficient at it, you know. Before, we didn't have the tech to be efficient, like Stephen said, you know.
Well, I think that's it.
I mean, it's interesting, some of these new concepts. I particularly like this one, LF0, because it's the one that I've seen that is less of a bullshit, you know, like Solana. There's a lot of bullshit with Solana going on, you know. It really is. I mean, I like it. Don't get me wrong. I like Solana, yeah.
I think, Ignat, if you want a new project for what you're doing, if you can develop a bullshit index, that would be really useful.
Yeah, but it'd always be at 100, wouldn't it? It'd always be.
What you're saying? I'd be 100. Yeah, probably.
I've put a link actually to a visualization of the DAG. So this is implemented with in the IOTA project. So this is they call it Tangle. They're on that DAG. And if you open that page and just kind of give it like a few minutes, what it does is actually collects the transactions in real time and then visualizes them, and you can see how it's growing. And the way it grows is like each new node, or not new node, new transaction, it references two other transactions, and it essentially validates those two transactions. And this way, you know, each new transaction validates two transactions, and all the validation is free and there is no mining. So it's a good thing to look at.
So that's the other thing as well, that with DAGs not using mining, that addresses one of the concerns that a lot of people have around the environmental impact. And this is where it's interesting. Someone mentioned NFTs before. So non-fungible tokens, which are kind of a spin-off from smart contracts and the whole tokenization thing. Some of the digital artist community who were looking at using NFTs to promote their art have refused to use NFTs because they don't like the environmental impact. So maybe if we've got a DAG-based NFT, that might draw them back in.
Yeah.
Again, it's all about recombining all these capabilities. Yeah. But maybe the other thing, and Ernie's probably the one with the insight on this as well, is as Ignis was saying about identity and about validating people's credibility when they're sharing data and looking at things. Identity and authenticity and proof of, not proof of work, but proof of people in some ways to what their intent is with sharing things is a bit of a challenge.
Very much so, Gary. Still, I was listening and everyone talks about digital identity. And until we solve that problem.
Proof of existence.
Proof of existence. And it goes into, autonomous cars. And then, because till the car knows actually who's going to get in their car, what's the point of having it? Because you don't know who's getting in.
We want a digital version of Descartes' cogito ergo sum. I don't know what that is, but I think, therefore I am, but I have a digital identity that's immutable and provable. How you do that, offers invited. Therefore I am.
It's not that difficult. It's just convincing people that they need to own their own data. We all know we own our data, but it's getting people to have their own box or safe box to keep their data in, and then they release that data to whoever wants it, or if they say you can have it.
Well, so the problem is that there's a whole generation growing up with Facebook that willingly every microsecond of the day gives away its data, their data, his or her data, to third parties.
But again,
they're very happy to do so, actually. That's the worrying thing.
But they're getting it for free. You're getting their whatever they think they're getting it for free. But if you was to turn around and say to them, actually, Facebook would have to pay you for your data, different question. And then, same as Google. They're taking everything, even though you think you're getting it for free, but you're not.
Yeah. We're getting onto a good subject here, because where I see very good utility for blockchain and crypto, leaving aside just as an investment store of value, is the idea of using tokenization to reward people about their own data and put a value on it, make their personal, your, my, and their personal data marketable, which you can tokenize. And if you forget Facebook, not Facebook launching their token, how about you launch your token, Ernie, and they pay you your so you get a market in your personal token. There's no reason why we shouldn't all have our own cryptocurrency, every single individual on the planet.
Actually, we are rewarding users with our token each time they share the data, and they can, as I said, create an NFT out of that data. And with that NFT, they can either sell, one or more copies for companies to use to make calculations, or they can stake it, and that means they still own the NFT and they allow others to use it to make calculations. And at any point in time, they can choose to unstake it, and they essentially are always in control.
Why? Can I ask a question? Why NFT?
Well, I think it's a very good use case for NFT, because what essentially we do with that is to prove, who created this data point. So it is essentially a hash of the data that's put on the blockchain. And it means that, this person created this data point. And if somebody else comes in with a similar data point, then an analysis can be done and said, oh, this one is counterfeit because we already.
So why NFT?
Well, that's what we do it for. It's not like
but you can do that. Certification, provenance, all of that stuff has been. You can use any blockchain. Any token on a blockchain is unique. NFT is not that. Yeah, that's why I ask people all the time. Why are you using NFT? When you can use any blockchain, any token on any blockchain is unique. Yeah?
Well, because we want it non-fungible, right? That's the definition, is non-fungible. So this data point that you created is non-fungible. So you can decide, okay, I'm going to have, I'm going to sell it 10 times. So I'll have 10 of these. And that's it. and I've created this collection, and it's it's my work that I've did, and I have a way to prove it. Now somebody else will be able also to take these data points and to aggregate them, and essentially to aggregate several other NFTs, and they validate this way. They again prove I've did this work, that I've run an analysis, and either it's manual or automatic. And again, I have a proof that I did it first, and I put it on the blockchain that I've generated. I signed it with my wallet. This is my NFT, even though it depends on other people's.
Okay, I understand that. I'm just questioning why NFT, because you stick in any blockchain, any data point, yeah, you associate a token with it from any blockchain. Yeah, I'm a very big critic of people just using NFT for everything now. When NFT, for me, it should be used as collectible and art, and that's it. Yes, it's all about that principle of fungibility versus non-fungibility.
Fernando,
that's a big discussion, I know, but I'm just a big critic of that. That's all. Any blockchain, can be used, because any token on any blockchain is unique. That's always my point.
I'll throw
really the point from what I was starting. If I may just come back in, because I've kind of started this knowing that there were people in you far more about than me. You want it to be not non-fungible. If it's my personal data and I want to sell it and exchange it for other goods and services, then I don't want it non-fungible. I want it to be a regular currency token.
No, it might be you've got a very explicit purpose for it, for a very predefined thing. So some work I saw being done around someone else who's looking at using NFTs was around providing a very specific subset of your data for a very specific purpose, which was when you go into a restaurant and it knowing about what your preferred items are. So what your tastes and what your preferences are, that kind of thing. But quickly, I might close this down. We'll carry on the conversation another week. I'm mindful that there are people here who might want to talk about other things. But quickly responding to Fernando's thing about why an NFT, I'm seeing NFTs being used as a convenient wrapper. So again, the capability exists, as Fernando says. You've got different blockchains, you've got different tokens. But I'm seeing things like ERC 721 smart contracts just being used as a medium of consistency. And I think NFTs are allowing us to use blockchains the way they were intended at last, that it's providing this traceability, the security in that, just out the box, really. So let's leave that one for now. Maybe we'll come back.
I disagree, but we can talk after.
Yeah. Well, you can disagree, but I've got the mute button, so I win. No, that's fair enough. I'm sure Fernando knows that's said with good intent. I just wanted to check with the people who are just listening today if they've got any thoughts or questions or comments or anything. So I don't want them to just listen in and go, I have not got a clue what they're all talking about. And I just wanted to hear about what the latest Bitcoin developments are. So, Ajit, Karan, anything from you guys? Because if not, we'll go back to NFTs.
I can go.
If it makes them feel more comfortable, I never have a clue what I'm talking about.
And that's kind of you, both Stephen and Gary. I think, what I'm interested to know is, with the multitude of NFTs and crypto assets being floated, what is the best way to separate the wheat from the chaff? Like, there isn't a clear answer, and maybe the question is how to approach, this kind of thing. Like the Cardano was good, like a few months ago, it was very hot, then it became soft. Solana is quite hot right now in some circles. So, where do you go to check whether there is developers doing a lot of work, it's actually being used in a proper use case? How to think about that process, that would be helpful.
I think the only way of sorting out the wheat from the chaff is the same as we did it with ICOs in 2017 and 2018, which is sit back and wait for 3 years and see what happens. And the enduring ones will still be here in 3 years. But meanwhile, you can do things like there are a lot of articles that people are writing. You can get a feeling for the teams. You can get a feeling for what they're about. Everyone's now producing NFT white papers instead of ICO white papers. And in some ways, I think we'll see NFTs could well become a form of finance raising, so that they might be effectively ICOs of 2022. So I think read the papers, read the articles. There's no particular website I would recommend, as in, this is the best one to look at. Google is your friend. YouTube can be quite happy. I don't know, how do other people look at NFTs, Pim?
What a way for Ignatius bullshit index. Come on, hurry up.
So the way I look at the moment is, just look at the projects on launch pads, out there, and you will see very quickly that NFTs, the highly successful projects, are the ones that people really consider what is NFT. It's art and collectibles. We had these big discussions in conferences in the last 2 months that I've been, and everybody's now focusing in gaming. Mm-hmm. Just NFTs when it comes to digital art or physical art with digital art, and collectibles. And those are the things that people are really focusing, and everything that is built into virtual worlds and the metaverse that has a token associated with it, it's quite hot at the moment. So, for example, I was in Lisbon in Solana conference, and I was speaking at Web Summit as well, and I met one guy that is doing something amazing, and I never thought about that. He's creating a petaverse where you will be able to do a lot of stuff with your pets and animals, and you have your avatars with your avatar, with your animals avatar. And the investors that came on board on that, I can't share much with you, but it's insane, really big names. So those type of projects, you will just look at the big conferences, and see some of the people that are talking these conferences and look at their projects as well. Because some of the new stuff coming out is really amazing, and everything has NFTs associated with it. So, for example, games, they have, there's a first-person shooting game, AAA, that I came across in one of the conferences, that they are, all the armor, guns, everything in the game is NFTs. And if, for example, I shoot, a very good gamer or a celebrity or whatever, influencer, I can loot those NFTs, the body armor and so on. I can use them, or I can sell them in a marketplace, because there is an history of who they belong to. They become more valuable. So they create incredible economies within the game economy, gameonomics. It's fascinating.
It's quite interesting. Thank you, Fernando. Thank you.
And Karen, the other thing I've just posted in the chat box, a site I do tend to take a look at is nonfungible.com. And I think they're the people who also do a quarterly review of the NFT marketplace. So they break it down by, as Fernando says, digital arts, collectibles, which is things like NBA Top Shots and that kind of thing, gaming, so things like Axie Infinity, and also a real growth area is in the whole metaverse space. So this idea of bringing together virtual worlds, physical worlds, this kind of thing. And that's where I wrote a very short post the other week on LinkedIn to say that Facebook renaming itself Meta to do with the metaverse might actually be a very, very clever way of them introducing a metaverse token that you can use for exchanging digital art, games and that, whatever.
Yeah.
But if they've got 2 billion members, you've now created an entire ecosystem of payment rails where 2 billion people can exchange value between each other, totally non-regulated. So,
but Gary, that's not going to happen. I mean, Facebook have always said they want to be regulated, but they're looking at this world of what we just avatars. That is the big thing. I mean, I can remember 3 or 4 years ago listening to some of the Chinese guys who really advanced into this world of avatars and actually doing celebrity avatars, because celebrities are being played by people. So if they can build an avatar in front of them, the avatar then answers everything in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So these, you know, the technology is moving along. There's nothing new.
Again, though, it's very rare there is anything new. It's usually a recombination of existing things. That's what we said about blockchain and everything before. And the thing I'm seeing with the metaverse, it's interesting. If you think about that, gives Facebook an opportunity to reposition itself around Oculus Rift and VR headsets. And if you think gaming, you know, we've got Axie Infinity, which is using a crypto token for gaming. But for anyone who's got children or grandchildren, they've probably heard of Roblox and Robux, you know, where parents buy their children Robux vouchers to buy games, avatars, whatever. The gaming community already exists in the digital realm. Once you link, so once you extend that, put it through a Facebook layer platform and have VR and AR, you've now got the ability that I'm no longer buying Robux to pay my kids to go and play some games, but actually I'm using my Robux to pay Stephen for a piece of work he did for me, and then he's using those Robux to pay Chris for something he did. Now,
I said 3 years ago that the company that will actually launch a real crypto token, forget Bitcoin, that has real utility is they called it Libra, now they're calling it something else. They're saying they're going to launch it next year. Well, they won't. They'll probably rebrand it because they've already got 40% of the adults on the planet is in a country called Facebook. They've already got their country coin. And they're regulated. They're a regular public corporation listed. They're already regulated. They can do what they like within their platform, within the law. And I think the metaverse is a very clever way of actually realizing that the gaming industry is now bigger than movies, music, and television all put together. And they're saying that's the one thing we're not actually in Facebook. It's a different demographic from the ones that are using Facebook for Facebook applications. They're not buying stuff. They're not buying regular goods generally. They're just playing games and using money to make a bit of money from playing games. So I think if you put Facebook together with gaming, together with their own crypto coin, you're going to see a whole new country called Facebook Gaming and Meta. Oh, they're calling it Meta now. They'll be calling it something else eventually. I think that's a holding name, frankly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you and Gary. So just think about Facebook with WhatsApp. They already have WhatsApp payments in Brazil and India. The combination of the population in Brazil and India, you know, is 1.4 billion, 1.5 billion already using payments on WhatsApp. So they've already tested the ground. Then they tried with Libra. Libra didn't go ahead, you know, because of all the things we know, and people spotted a lot of things. Facebook, let's not forget, Facebook already have games on it. Yeah. I know a guy who started a company just doing games for Facebook, for apps in Facebook. He became a millionaire in 2.5 years when he produced 3 games. It's huge, you know, this specific community. So both of you absolutely right. You know, they're going to conquer this way. Very clever.
I think it's fine. I keep describing Libra as being the biggest crypto project that would never happen.
But I think it's just morphed behind the scenes. I don't think it's never happened. It's just not happened.
But it's going to happen.
Fernando, it's all very well quoting these populations. Those populations, 90% of them would still rather do stuff with dollar bills in their pocket. They don't want to pay stuff with WhatsApp. Most of them are paying cups of coffee with dollar bills. That's what everybody wants.
No,
oh,
Stephen. For example, in Africa, people do not have access to money, but they have a phone. They don't have access to a bank account, but they have a phone. So they use already on their phones a lot of this stuff.
By comparison with people putting dollars across the counter, it's tiny.
No, it's not.
You'll be surprised, Stephen. It's not. Not anymore.
See what you've started, Karen?
The volumes of cash of the US dollar every day is in the trillions of dollars.
Yeah, but not on those countries. Not on those countries, Stephen.
Not for cash handling. It might be that they're dealing in rupees as cash, or Brazilian, is it pesos or whatever? And in Africa, it's any multitude of things. Sorry,
Yeah,
Annie,
they all want dollars. They all rather have dollars in their pockets than anything.
But Stephen, do you know, for example, in India, in Brazil, yeah, what they have is the payment system from WhatsApp. I think it's called something like UPI or something, which is attached to the unified payment interface. I think it's what it is. It's a method that allows people to make payments between bank accounts. So yes, I mean, they're not using cash in the hand, you know, it's still using electronic money. Of course, they don't use crypto, but it's not anymore that paper cash that you go. They just use this app, yeah, where there is all of these, the unified payment interface that banks use as well. And they can process I can send money to you in India using WhatsApp and it appears in your bank account.
But maybe it's worth sharing as well that this whole concept is already in place and live in a different country that you haven't mentioned with a different technology, and that's WeChat. And WeChat's already got, you know, if you go to China, it's all digital payments through WeChat. So in some ways, WhatsApp may be just trying to replicate that kind of model. I'm conscious we've only got a few minutes left. I always try and close these sessions off on time. And I think that's a couple of really interesting conversations. So hopefully, Karen, coming back to your question about NFTs and how do you value them or how do you work out the wheat from the chaff, we've probably just made it more difficult for you in some way. But
Gary, sorry, mate, to interrupt. But you do have to do the research. They're no different from a normal company. And you've got to look what's underneath it and who are the directors. I mean, as you can remember, you know, they used to do an IPO on an ICO on the back of just a sheet of paper.
Yep.
The laws changed and they start to realise that they can't get away with it. And it's going to be the same with NFTs. And, you know, they say we're not regulated, but we are. The whole world is regulated by law. You know, and you're subject to tax, you're subject to all these different things. And, you know, people who arbitrage regulation actually aren't doing themselves any favours, because the law still says you've got to do it this way.
Karen, does that help you in any way?
Immensely. You know, I can't thank the group here, because it's given me enough pointers to do the research next level down. So
I would just add to what Ernie
Focus
said.
on games.
Totally back what you say for Karen. And if you start asking the questions and you get reluctance or no answers, then just move on, frankly.
Yep.
Because there are a few good companies are prepared to stand up to the plate and defend and give you backstories on the people involved, the investors, where they're registered, if they're registered at all, if they've even got a company structure. I mean, you can pretend to be whatever you like through a screen, as we know, but actually getting to the people behind and what their credentials are and what they've got by way of technology. And don't forget who actually owns the IP, because that gets glossed over. There's so much stuff that's supposedly open source now, but when you drill down to it, if you ask a few lawyers, they say, no, it isn't actually open source. They've actually nicked that from somewhere. There's a lot of that goes on with software, we know.
And I think Stephen makes some good points on there. Usually you'll find most NFTs and most crypto projects, they'll have a community, whether it's on Telegram, WhatsApp or whatever, or Signal. I find it interesting, if you want to dig into them more, to join the Telegram group and just watch what's being talked about and watch how they answer questions. I've been in a few where I've posed some relatively simple questions, and in one of them I was thrown out the group for asking the thing, and it's a lot of them, you don't quite know if they're being evangelical and they're so caught up with themselves that they just don't realize, or they're scams. And the scams, usually, if you ask something simple, they'll throw you out. And the evangelical ones will accuse you of being a scammer. You know, it's fascinating stuff. So anyway, there's a few things.
Just I want to add up very quickly to that, Gary, that a lot of these new projects coming on, they hire people to manage their WhatsApp group. So there's about 15 companies that do that as a commodity. So you just hire them and they have people 24 hours. And a lot of times you get in that situation because people just don't know, or they are stupid, the people answering back to you. So it's not the best thing for a project to do that, but it's very hard to find people that can actually understand social media and crypto and manage groups properly. So they fall into that problem, most of these projects anyway, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And in fact, thinking about it, one of the projects, it was a company who were using a community management group. It was actually the community management group who've got quite a high profile name who threw me out because they thought I was being quite.
That's very poor.
Yeah, and they thought I was intentionally causing problems when actually I was asking some really simple questions with the intent of livening things. So, folks, it's at 8 o'clock. We've just been joined by Lee, who's timed it perfectly for me to say thank you for joining us, but we are just finishing for the day, unfortunately. So I was going to close off by just thanking everyone who's come along today. It's great to see some new faces. We do hold these every Sunday evening, currently 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK GMT. Everyone's always welcome. And we record this as well. So for those who are watching this on YouTube afterwards, hope you've enjoyed this. Do click on the subscribe, like, make comments, blah, 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 YouTube, fan-dabby-dozy type stuff. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Quickly.
Go on, Annie.
So how do we get in for next week?
So it'll be the same link. I use the same thing. And but we've also got a separate meetup group for this, which is the Books Crypto Club. You can also, everyone's welcome to join that as well.
Right.
So if you go to meetup.com and it's Books Crypto Club, join there, and I announce it through there as well.
Brilliant.
So hopefully you've all enjoyed it. Thank you for joining. Thank you everyone who shared stuff.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.